Great. So, hi everybody. Thank you so much to Professor Semal. I would like to thank you warmly to give me this opportunity to share with you, to introduce the assets and challenges of Wallonia from an international point of view. I will do that independently from the COVID-19 situation. So I will really speak about the assets in general, I would say. Well, I'll be more than happy to share with you and to interact with you afterwards with your question. Okay, so let's start. So today I will explain how important it is for Wallonia to be open to the world, why foreign partners, why foreign investors and exports are key to Wallonia, and then words about the assets and challenges, as mentioned, a few facts and figures, and then to conclude how at Awex we play a role in that context. So why pursue a policy of attractiveness and internationalization? Well, because we live in an extremely globalized, interconnected world. And despite the crisis, we are not going to go completely backwards. The value chains are too interwoven, and because it's not of our interest to go backwards. Wallonia, like most other countries, but maybe more as a region, because we are a small region in a small country, well, we are not a self-sufficient island, so we depend on our external environment. And that external dependency is composed of different elements that you see on the slide. And there are two aspects on which Awex is playing a role, is the degree of openness of the economy, so with exchange, export, import, and also the number and amount of foreign investment in the local economy. So a few words to explain that dependency. First, the weight of foreign partners in the Walloon economy. So see a lot of figures here. I won't go through them, but just what is important to remember is that one company in 10 in Wallonia is owned by a foreign shareholder, and that nearly 1 in 2 jobs in Wallonia is generated by a company with foreign shareholders. So obviously, yes, we are dependent on foreign investors. They are really playing a very important role in the economy, in the added value of our economy. And foreign partners are everywhere from the moment you get up and take your breakfast until your dinner. So you will enjoy and benefit from services and products coming from a lot of foreign companies. So that was about foreign investors, but we also depend on exports. And well, despite the crisis, so whatever the situation of the pandemic can induce, whatever the temptation could be to turn in on ourselves, to be less open, we have to be aware that international trade must remain high on the radar of our companies. Let's not forget that the planning bureau, le Bureau du Plan, and EQUIS, our statistic agency, remind us nearly 30% of employment in Belgium are linked to exports, directly or indirectly, and that almost 70% of the turnover of companies is created internationally. So yes, globalization, I mean a healthy and balanced globalization, is really an essential vector of progress, of innovation, of development of our economy. So now that you are convinced of the importance of the internationalization of our region, I will explain to you what are the assets of Wallonia on which we can work to foster the attractiveness and exports. And I will also talk about the challenges, because as Pierre said, it's very important to know what you have to work on to be better. So the foundation of our attractiveness policy is the importance of the market and the place within the market. So companies come in Wallonia or in any country because they want to access the market. They want to find customers. That's as simple as that. And this will always be taken into account in our job. So I will go through Wallonia's main assets that we put forward, that we highlight when we try to catch foreign investors. So the first one is the proximity to the market. So now I know that every single agency, just like ours, will say that its region, it's in the center of the market. But the fact is that when you ask an entrepreneur why he has decided to settle in Wallonia, well, he will tell you, because I'm in the center of the market, and obviously we are more in the center than UK or Italy or Sweden. And you also have to remind that in 6 hours truck time, for example, we can reach 66% of the biggest market, the European market. So this is a geographical argument, and geography is, of course, very important. But there is another argument that's as important, and it's about culture. It's a psychological one. Belgium is fundamentally a mixture of cultures, 3 cultures, Latin, German, and Anglo-Saxon. And Belgium has been invaded by every single European country, so obviously we are very attractive. But more seriously, there are some consequences of that openness, I would say, is the neutrality. If a company goes to Germany, well, it will become a German company, and its market will be Germany. If a company goes to Netherlands, it will become Dutch and with a Dutch market. In Belgium, not. You will be considered, the company will be considered as a truly European company, and the market will be all Europe. And for a very simple reason, it's because well, the culture, the mix of culture I was mentioning, but also because Brussels is not only the capital of Belgium, but also the capital of Europe, and that is global. Brussels is a global business center. So that was about geography, that was about proximity to the market. But another important asset is our infrastructure. So I won't bother you with the roads. There are many in Belgium, you know. I won't bother you with the rail and the trains, but it's obviously an asset as you see. Just you should remember that, well, from Brussels, it takes 2 hours and a half to go to London. It takes 1 hour and a half to go to Paris. So those are obviously assets for companies who want to access to this market. So a brief point about the airport. So about Brussels, apart from Brussels airport, we have 2 regional airports. Which share the same characteristics. They've both known a tremendous increase in turnover. Of course, Charleroi Airport has faced an important decrease of number of passengers during the COVID crisis and still now. And on the contrary, Liège Airport has benefited from the crisis as hub for medical aid or for e-commerce, clearly. But they are both hub to important companies, and they both represent an incredible boost for our region. So, well, about ports and sea, well, you know, we all know that Wallonia has no borders with the sea, but we have 2 seaports not so far, and they are the most important in Europe, meaning Antwerp and Rotterdam, and which means that when a large ship arrives, well, in one of those ports, well, they put containers on barges, and then they are brought into Liège, which is extremely near to the French border and to German market. So with the advantage of no traffic jam, no congestion, and of course, we're very beneficial for the nature and for our carbon footprint. So land and buildings. So yes, we have a lot of business parks for our companies, well equipped. We have the price of land is very low. It's lower than in other region and other country. Also, the real estate costs are very low, lower than in other cities or countries or regions. So obviously, that's also something that we put forward when we attract investors. But because there are buts, and I was talking about challenges. So we have plots of lands, but we are running the risk now to lack large equipped, so large, so more than 20 hectare plots of land and equipped lots. So that's something we have to put very big attention, much attention, and we are also giving that message to our authorities, to the government. And also we are also suffering some slow procedures in urban planning, so that's also something we have to fix. So now about the fiscal system, we have a very favorable tax system in Belgium. The official tax rate has gone to down to 25%, which is already competitive compared to other countries, as you may see. But these 25%, they can even be brought down up to much lower figures, and through simply a lot of legal techniques that can be used. For example, companies will pay only 3.75% corporate tax on income generated by licenses, patents, innovation software, and that's unique in Europe. Expats, for example, they can deduct expenses, for example, tuition fees, school fees, or house rent. About fiscal, yet, but still, about the challenges. I had to explain you that we have, that deduction and that deduction. So our fiscal system is not very clear. You have always to explain that it's okay, it's 25, but you can have very another deduction that can bring it to a bottom line, to lower figures. So that's not that easy, and it's depending on business. So that's something which makes our job difficult to explain sometimes the fiscal system. But of course, we also often give the floor to our federal colleagues, the tax administration. And we are facing very competitive tax environment, for example, in Netherlands and in Ireland, which are very simple. And the tax system is very clear, more clearer than ours. So that's something we must pay attention to. And then we have a lot of incentives in Wallonia, a lot of incentive schemes, investment incentives up to 25% of the investments. That's quite important. But there we have also some challenges because it's very restrictive for large companies because we depend on European funds and the program. So they have run out. We have to wait for the next program. There's no pre-financing, and there too we are facing competition with the most recent member states, such as Poland, for example. R&D incentives, a lot and very important, as you see, up to 70% of recoverable advance and up to 80% of subsidies. So that's something very important for us because, as you know, and Wallonia is very strong in life science sector. So those incentives are very important to bring in our country, in our region, important companies. Then employment incentives. Well, we can also lower the costs, the employment cost by 11% in a period of 4 years as an average by using training and employment incentives. And in terms of employment, we work with Le Forum in terms of assistance. So Forum is able to select people according to the profiles the company give us and to calculate the cost of the people. And of course, export incentives. As we used to say, the investor of the morning index is the exporter of the afternoon, meaning that as soon as you are in our region, we can provide you with incentive for exporting and accessing to your customers, to your European customers, the market you wanted to reach by coming in Wallonia. So a word about workforce, about education. So, well, you are a living proof of it. We have a world-class education system. We have very highly educated population. So as you see, we are very good in the ranking. We have 6 universities only in Wallonia, Brussels. Large collaboration between companies and universities and research centers, and we can already really see tremendous results of that kind of collaboration. I will talk about that later, about the competitiveness clusters. So yes, workforce is available in Belgium as a whole, but we are facing some difficulties in recruiting certain profiles. As you know, we face a shortage of scientific and technological profiles, and we have also some difficulties in the language facilities. So that's also a point of attention. Productivity is very high, but high cost, high workforce cost, high energy costs. The structure of salary is complicated to master for foreign investor, and question of perception also about the social environment, about the role of the unions in the companies. It's basically a perception because we're not worse than the other regions or other countries, but still that perception exists, so we have to work on that. And finally, but not the least, certainly not, the innovation system, which is really becoming one of the most important assets that we are putting forward for our attractivity. So 15 years ago, the Walloon government had really this vision of enforcing the smart specialization strategy coming from the European Commission, which is in fact how to put forward the importance of innovation as a factor of economic development. And it's about the importance of the interconnection between the companies, the research centers, and the universities. So we have 6 competitiveness clusters. So they were selected by an academic study around the sectors in which Wallonia had the special and strong assets for being world leaders. So agro-food, mechanical engineering, life science, which is definitely our strong sector in Wallonia, logistics and transport, aeronautic and space, and green tech. So those are the 6 competitiveness clusters. So they work together, universities, research centers, companies, to build projects to receive money, because that's the deal. If they want to get specific money for competitiveness cluster, they have to bring something together. So now they've been working together for 15 years now, and really that way of working together is really an attractive factor for high added value sectors. Because when we explain to foreign companies that if they come in Wallonia, they will evolve in a vibrant ecosystem, in a mature environment of cooperation, innovation, in which they will find everything. They will find HR, so human resource in their sector, research network, financing, industrial partners. So really it makes a difference. For example, Japanese investors, they really come for that. And they build really their research centers in our region because they know we are really cutting edge ecosystem. And really for 15 years now, they have demonstrated agility, maturity, and creativity. And we could witness that creativity during the crisis, creativity and agility that have been, of course, accelerated by the constraint of the crisis, and which really benefited from a favorable ground, from that winning connection between the world of research, university, and industry. So there are a lot of examples during the crisis, but I list a few here about cleaning, recycling, hospital waste, about mass decontamination, production of equipment, and not only medical industries were involved, but also other companies who put their production lines at the service of the collectivity. I think about, for example, the case of some breweries or cosmetic companies for the production of hydroalcoholic gel. some aeronautical companies also, which design small parts of respirators, which were very needed at the beginning of the crisis. And really, university professors, because of this habit to work together, they were able to count on the relay of companies to industrially produce the lab-tested research. So yes, apart from those 6 sectors, the digital economy is also at the heart of Walloon priorities. So apart from the 6 sectors of the competitiveness clusters, digital was really a key point. And really Industry 4.0, AI, IoT will really be subject of interest in Wallonia. At the Wallonia level, but of course very important for us at the international level to export our company and also to bring a foreign investor in that sector and for cooperation. And it's so important because, as you may have heard, during the crisis, digitally mature companies were really more resilient than others. So all those assets, however the challenges, they have paid off. They have paid off in terms of evolution of export and in terms of growth of foreign investment. So some facts and figures. So we see in the last few years that Wallonian exports have been growing more than the export of our neighboring region and countries. So as you see, from 2017 to 2019, an increase of 9.7 on average compared to 4.5 average for the basket of countries we compare to. So obviously it's better. And still, of course, if we speak about 2020, of course, the figures were not so good because it was very difficult for our companies to export. So we have a result of minus 4.9% for Wallonia, but it's still not as bad as the result of our neighboring countries and regions. So that's important to quote. And also we see that we have also see a growth in the market share of Wallonia by 11.8%, meaning that we are really taking market shares more and more with compared to other countries of Euro 19. So 3 other good news that companies, Walloon companies that are challenging themselves outside EU. The fact is that we still export a lot in the European Union. So about 71.5% in Europe. So it's still a lot, but 10 years ago it was 80%. So we are doing better to export outside Europe. It's important because it's there that you will find the added value. The growth is bigger in outside Europe. We could see that also during the first part of the crisis. So that's why our actions program at Awex is focused at, I would say, 60% on countries outside Europe. It's really to better the diversification, the geographical diversification of our companies. Also, a good news is that we see more and more export in the technological sector of technological products with added value. So we assume that this progress is linked to the smart specialization strategy, to the competitiveness clusters, if you make the link. And something that we often forget is that Wallonia is the only region in Belgium that which has a regular trade surplus. So that's also important. So here you see the main foreign export market. So as you see, Europe is very important, but US is growing a lot these last few years. And it's very striking when you look at figures on the right is the main sector. So nearly 40% of export are focused on chemical and pharmaceutical sector. That's a lot. Well, that's fine because it's a strong sector, but we have also to develop the sector, the export of other sectors. But that reflects the economy, the Walloon economy and the different sectors as they are developing in Wallonia. So that's also a point of attention, so that the sectorial diversification of the economy and thus of the export. So a lot of success stories too, companies that you may know, companies that you may not know, which are very leaders in the sectors. Just a few of them. EVS, for example, which is the leader in the slow motion. You must see the slow motion for the soccer World Cup, for example, Olympic Games. Most of them are made with EVS techniques. Sonaka, very important, working with the NASA. AGC, it's a leader in industry glass. It's a Japanese investment, by the way. ITS, which is a spin-off, very active in the life science on immunotherapy, and is on the NASDAQ, in the American NASDAQ, which is a success for them. And John Cockerill, that you know, but which is really strengthening its position and through the diversification and to become the leader of production of green hydrogen, which is a very strategic sector more and more. And also a lot of companies, maybe less known, but which are world leaders in niche and innovation sectors. And I think that we don't talk enough about those companies, and well, we have to be proud of them and to know them maybe more. So we have to communicate more. So a lot of a bit about foreign investment. So we've seen also an important growing success, I would say, during the last decades in terms of amounts, but also in terms of job creation. And really, we see a real structuring effect of the competitiveness clusters too, because foreign investment mainly come in those sectors. Investment are mainly come from Europe, 75% in terms of number, but in terms of jobs, mainly, and amount of money, mainly from the US. So, which is our most important foreign investors in terms of jobs. Okay, also a lot of success stories here, just a few. L'Oréal in Libramont, first 100% green factory. Johnson & Johnson has chosen Belgium to locate its European distribution center. China, which is a subsidiary of Alibaba. You must know it, very active in e-commerce, has chosen Liège as its European hub, so that's also very proud for us. And Google, of course, which is very well located in Wallonia, and which will build its 4th data center. But again, a question of perception. We are suffering a lack of image and of perception, and we have to work on that, on the rankings, on the communication. So that's really a point of attention for us to have more targeted audience for our communication, also to communicate with the citizens and with students, because I think that's very important to make sure that everybody in the universities, the students, the citizens knows about those assets and about Wallonia and its international impact. And also other challenges are the entrepreneurial culture. I don't know how many among you would like to set up his company. Could have been easier if you could see each other, but still. That's very important to have that entrepreneurial culture to enhance it in Wallonia. The size of the companies, our companies are smaller than companies in Flanders, for example, so that makes a difference when it's about exporting, for example. You need people. And also the challenge I talked about, I mentioned that, geographical diversification, because we depend too much on European markets, and also sectorial diversification, which is needed because we depend a lot on pharmaceutical sector, and also the gap between R&D and industrialization that we have to fill. So what is our part in that? So a few words about Awex in a nutshell. So 400 people, about 200 here in Belgium, Wallonia, and well, Wallonia in Brussels because our headquarters are in Brussels, and 200 outside Belgium. We are covering with our trade commissioners abroad 92 countries. So that's a lot, but we need it because our companies are small, so they really need a network, a very strong network all around the world to help them. So our job, so we are a public agency, our job is to support, export, and to promote foreign investment, also based on a territorial brand policy, so to give visibility to Wallonia as a whole, to promote our innovation ecosystem, which is more and more an international asset for us, and also training young people in international trade. I don't know if you know the program Explore, but it's a very successful program which helps students to go abroad to experiment international trade, and also it gives the opportunity to a company to benefit from a young people to help them to export. So that's a very important program. I advise you to go on our site to check if you want to enroll. So how at Awex we play a role in that internationalization? Well, we are a matchmaker. I always say that we are a matchmaker and a kind of export trigger. And we work with 3 pillars: human pillars, action pillars, and money pillar. So about human, well, we have those regional center in all the region, in all the sub-region of Wallonia. And we have that network of more than 100 trade commissioners all around the world. Very important for our companies. There are links abroad for them. Commercial, so the actions, well, so we have about 170 actions a year: missions, participation to trade fairs, and invitation of buyers, seminars. And finally, financial assistance, so incentives. So yes, we provide incentives, so money, to support services of consultancy, marketing, mobility, prospection, exploration of new markets in outside EU, and setting up abroad. And we have also an action in promotion, the technological and innovation ecosystem and partnerships, as I told you. So about attracting foreign investors, so what is our job? So we are a one-stop shop for foreign investor. So we are in charge of detecting companies first that might be interested in developing in EU, so in Wallonia to be the hub. Then when we have detected them, we won't let go, we'll pamper them, and it's about convincing, it's about accompanying them, finding their way in the region, well, making their life easier. And then we help them to set up. For a few examples, if they look for property, well, in just a few days, we will give them a complete overview of the availability of buildings, of lands throughout Wallonia. Number of people, the cost of people, there too, they give us the profiles, and with the forum, we give them a complete overview, sub-region by sub-region. Fiscal system too. We help them with our colleagues from the federal level. We are probably the only country in the world that pays civil servants to make companies pay as little tax as possible. So we take advantage of that. So in short, we ensure that the company has all the information it needs to make an investment decision in Wallonia rather than in other country. And we do that with others, with SPAC hunting. So we're all our partners. So that's what we're one-stop shop, one door, but to a lot of partners. And it's free of charge. And then to conclude, a few words about what we call les états généraux. So 2 years ago, we launched those états généraux. It was about questioning our vision, to building a new strategy to answer the challenges of greater internationalization, to have more companies to export, to have more attractiveness, to diversify the different sectors geographically, the export of our company, as I explained you, which were the challenges. So we had a very collaborative exercise with all the stakeholders, so it takes us some time. So we really work with internal and external stakeholders. And we came up with a diagnosis with the major assets, that always the same. The assets of the agency is the human approach with our trade commissioner abroad and regional centers, all the actions we organize and the incentives we gave, but also some weaknesses, and that's important also to know your weakness to fix them. And so what came up was that we need greater specialization of our business approach. The world is complicated. Companies are very more and more innovative. We have to understand that. So we have to enhance our sectorial and our industry expertise to have a better answer to our companies. Also, we noticed that we have insufficiently developed monitoring tools. So if you can't monitor what you are doing, well, it's difficult to reach effectiveness. So that's also important to have more monitoring tools and to ask company to help us to know what's working and what's not working. More implication of our trade commissioners abroad in the building of a strategy. It's important too to connect more our teams abroad and in Belgium, and also to connect our teams inside. Like every institution, like every agency in the world, you have always to think about breaking down the barriers between teams in order to make them work together. And of course, for example, export and invest. Well, how to work more together, sectorial and geographical, how to work together, because it's a couple. When you sell a product, you sell a product somewhere, but you can sell it anywhere. It's fit for a market and maybe not for another. So those worlds are to be connected. So yeah, we came up with a plan, 5 priorities, 35 measures. I won't go through the 35 measures. But it was about that, about really fixing those weaknesses, and about having to be better at with the sectorial expertise, to be better on analysis and helping our company with a tailor-made service, really to help them to build a strategy, to build a diagnosis, maturity diagnosis that we are building now to say to that company, okay, maybe you're not ready to go there now. So, but we have to have a tool to be able to do that. Also, a better screening. So yes, through that diagnosis, maturity diagnosis. Also to have better mechanism to monitor the performance, the impact of our services, as I told you, the monitoring, and also support services, because we have to improve the talent management. We have to make our internal procedures easier for the company, but also for us, and to collaborate more, to work more together. So to have collaborative tools and knowledge management tools. That's also very important. So yes, that plan has an impact on our organic structure, which is really changing a lot. Our work on our organization will work with sharing knowledge more, with a cross-functional approach, collaborative approach. Our technological basis will change also. New maturity diagnosis, the implementation of CRM to know our clients and to make the links between the different actions. And of course, it will allow us to know them better, so to provide them with a very customized service. This plan has been built with different groups within the house, the agency, but also with our colleagues from abroad, our trade commissioners abroad. About 80 people have worked on those focus groups, and well, they have. It has led to this plan. I won't go through that, but it's really to explain you that we will really provide an optimized support to the companies at every step of their international strategy, from the beginning to know to build their strategy, to support them, to develop their products, to be their facilitators abroad, really, because we see that the crisis has really shifted the role of our trade commissioners, as the companies weren't able to go to the countries they wanted to export, they had to count on our teams abroad, our trade commissioners. So we see that we have a very important role in the last mile, the really last mile for the export, and to help them during crisis, during hard times. So that's important to capitalize on that asset now. We will be stronger by defending their interest, by promoting their visibility. For the risk management too, we are going to build a new service active for regulatory. We call that regulatory help desk. So to help them in case of crisis situation, and also we will be better at finding them financing solutions. So that's about the new functional structure. So we don't have any more invest and export from both sides, on two different sides. We have product and services from one side and international affairs on the other side, mixing export and invest, because there's a lot of knowledge to share between those two functions. We have also a very interesting new service, which is a network, a service which will take into account the trade commissioners, and there will be a foreign trade commissioner in that service. So it will be more implicated in our strategy. So that's it for me. I hope I wasn't too long. I tried to give you an overview of the assets and challenges of Wallonia, but also to explain how we do our job to enhance the attractiveness and the export of Wallonia. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes, you're right to underline that point. In fact, our humility, I would say that, is for some country an asset, because they don't see us, like invaders. I would say it's a strong word, but still. So it's mainly an asset to do business, but still. I also often say to the companies, I try to remember, yes, I was in Montreal a few years ago. It was a digital mission, and the startups and spin-off, very, very successful companies here in Wallonia, but young companies. And well, they were so amazed by what they could see, but I had to underline and to tell them, well, you are as good as the companies we are going to see, so don't be shy and show your assets. So it's either way, it's an asset but also a challenge that we have to face. So we have to work on that. And when I was talking about the perception, if we are not proud enough of our products, of our service, of our region, we can't sell it as well as other countries can do that. So sometimes it's good to be humble, but you have to be, quite assertive to sell your business. It's really a mix. Because some countries says, okay, it's nice to welcome you, better than French people, because French are always the same. But at the end of the day, we see that French is very good at export too. So we have to transform that humility as a good asset. When you see Netherlands, for example, they are assertive, really, and they are very proud of their color. They are very proud of their country, of their football team, of everything. That's something they have. We don't have that, obviously. So yes, we have to work on that. So that's our role. It's to be, sometimes maybe arrogant. I don't know if I can say best region or not, but yes, I have some figures, I guess, maybe here. Well, we know that obviously the industrial valley, I would say, is still important. So Liège is still a lot of industrial companies which has transformed, yes, their assets into new technology. So that's quite important. Geographically, if you take the foreign investment, well, they are mainly, yes, in the industrial basin, you say, I don't know, from Charleroi to Liège. And if you take the life science, of course, we see that, of course, Brabant Wallon is a very important place. So yes, the place around the university, of course, is a very high potential region for Wallonia, definitely. But yes, in life science, we see more and more also very successful companies around the biopark near Charleroi Airport, and yes, in Liège, near the Sartillement, often around the university, if I must say, of course. Well, when companies they look for assertive students, definitely, because they will be sent 2 months abroad to do business. So they have to be, self-sufficient, assertive. So that's an important point. Language facilities, but I don't doubt that all your students have that. But that's important, and sometimes more than English. So that's also important. Two language, Spanish and English, are very important. Well, Chinese, Russian is also, why not? Because they don't have that. And with the Explored program, they really look what they don't have inside their company. So if you have specific, know-how in some languages, that could be also of interest. They also look for technological competences. So we also have a lot of students coming from the engineering faculty, which are, well, they take some classes in economy and business and commercial, and that they're fit for the job. But yes, assertive, self-sufficient, and we are commercial-minded and willing to go abroad, of course. The rate of employment is very high with Explored. When they enroll in Explored, about more than 80% of the stagiaire, I don't find the word trainee.
Trainee, yeah.
Yeah, they find a job either in the company with which they were working with Explored, or in other. It's a kind of label now. Explored is becoming really well famous in Wallonia, I guess, now for the companies. Yes, you have to find yourself. Either you have found a company and you say, okay, we match, so we propose that. But we organize what we call short meetings, blind dates, mainly blind dates, and it's working quite well. So we have 5 minutes to introduce yourself to a company, and then you change. You meet another company. So if you don't have one, we organize some sessions, 2 sessions a year, I guess, in order for you to find the good match.